Hello, everyone. Welcome to our class. Today, we are going to talk about client-server model. So what's a client-server model? What's a socket? So let's start today's class. So we have our computer and we try to connect to some server. So in this case, we call this computer client and this computer server. So what's a client server model means we have a client, we have a server, and our client try to connect to server and get the information back from server. So this connection, we use TCP. Do you remember TCP? A connection-oriented communication. So it's a transport protocol because we want to guarantee the information passed through these two machines is correct and in order. So we want to make sure the correctness of the data. We want to make sure the order of the meta. So we use TCP for this one. And of course, we use IP, which is the IP address. So we have IP address for our CS server here. And we also have IP address for our own machine. Okay. So actually, this is a connection between two machines, and with the same like a some protocol. So we try to package everything here as a socket. So what's a socket? Socket is a connection. So when you make a socket, you make a connection, and this connection contains both sides, contain a client, contain a server, and contain every protocol it have. So in our system, in our computer, in your kernel, they provide the interface for the socket. So you don't need to worry about the details, how to implement the TCP, how to implement the IP. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to tell your server, your client, your machine that I want to build this connection with this protocol. Can you handle this for me? And your kernel will say, yes, I already ready for you. I have an interface called socket. You can just use circuit interface to make this connection. Okay, so this is the basic idea of client server model. So with two IP address, you can easily search the server, and server can easily find where's the client and where's I should send to the data. Okay, so this is the idea. But here's the question: inside our computer, there's so many process in our computer. And also in the server, it can have multiple processes in the server. Which server, which process should be the one to deal with this connection? This is something like an interesting question, right? For example, in client, we usually use a browser. So we have browser to deal with this. So browser is a software, it's a process. So this process deal with this connection. And in server, there's definitely a process to deal with the connection. So in this case, if we provide an IP address, we probably can find a machine. We probably can find a process. Is it true? No, it's not true because you have a multiple process. For example, inside your server, you can have another one, like a mail service, mail provider, mail service provider. So you have two different processes. One is provide the website content. Another one is provide the mail. So when your client try to connect to the server, which process need to deal with this connection? You never know, right? So actually the connection is not just IP address to IP address. You definitely need a way to decide which process is the one you need to process this connection. So in this case, we have another idea which is called port. Port is a number. So we try to attach the process into a port. For example, we attach this IP address to the port 80. So when we try to connect to this IP address, we also provide this 80 information. So we will say if this IP address is 198 2 1 1, okay. In this case, we will provide 198 2 1 1 and 80. We will provide this information, include 80 here. In this case, we can tell the server, okay, right now this connection is going to the port 80, and the port 80 is attached another a software, a process, it's a website provider. So this is a connection. Of course, which port you receive the data from the server. You also need to define it because in your computer, you might have a multiple browsers. You can have a Firefox plus the Google Chrome. And I think you won't use IE, right? Don't use IE. Don't use Internet Explorer, by the way. So yeah, use a Chrome, use Firefox. There's a multiple browser layer. So which one you want to like receive this data? So of course you also need to provide a port number. Let's say like a 60,000. You have this port number, and you try to attach this software to the 600,000. So in this case, you can manage this connection. Okay, so what's a socket? Socket is actually contain the IP address, two IP address, two port number, and the protocol. So if you provide all information this here, then you can build the connect. You can build the socket. If you miss any informations, you miss any protocol, you miss a port number, then you cannot make any socket connection. Okay, so let's look at the detail of the socket. So the socket is the endpoint of a connection. So you can imagine it's a IP address and port number like a pair. So you have a two IP address, two port number, and of course you need to know what's the protocol, this protocol for this connection. Okay, and for the port number, you have a port number for client, port number for the server, right? So in this case, actually, let's talk about the second topic for today. Is what category of your port number? So the category of port number can be divided by two. There's a two different kind of port number. Actually, there's more than two, but this two is very important. So there's a two important port number category we can use. So what is? So okay, so in this case, first of all, we try to connect to server. So we don't know the IP address of the server, but it's fine. We have a DNS, right? When we type www.cs.ums.edu, the DNS service, this domain name service will like provide the IP address for you, but it does not provide the port number, right? It does not provide a port number. It's just tell you where's the machine, and machine is there. What the port number is. So in this case, usually it's really hard to know which port number you try to attach to your service. But if you want to provide a server, actually there's a rules. Again, the rules like protocol, everyone follow it. Everyone try to use the same port number for the particular service. For example, web service. The web service, we usually use port number 80. So if you want to provide a website, you will put your website, attach it to a port number 80 because you want other process, you want other client, they know there's a website here. So this is called well-known port. Well-known port is kind of already predefined. Predefined, and everyone knows it. So if I want to connect to this machine for like a browsing your website, then I will use 80. This port number, because everyone is this port number. Of course, if you want to share a secret website, actually in a network, there's some secret website. Some people they use is do some bad stuff. This case, this secret website they probably just attach in different like phone number, so you cannot easily find it because they are attached to different phone number. So this is the basic idea. Why we use the well-known port? Why we use well-known port to provide a service, provide a server? Of course, you can use any number you want, but if you use any other numbers, except for those who already know the port number by maybe you tell them, except for this person, no one can access to your website. So usually when we provide a website, we will give you a well-known port number. Okay. So this is for well-known port. So what's the another one? Ephemeral port. For ephemeral port, this number is very big number. So for example, you can have a range of this number which is 4 9152 to 65535. So inside this range, we call it ephemeral port number. So what's this? This usually is for client because for a client, you don't need other machine know your IP address except the server. And you can easily tell the server. For example, I use a port number 50000. If I use this port number, I can pass this 5000 to the server. So server will know what the port number is. The server don't need to make a guess. So in this case, you can use any number you want. You don't have to use a well-known number because you will tell the server what's your port number to build this connection. Okay, so we usually use is this ephemeral part like a port number to us to like do the client. So when client try to like build the connection, it will randomly choose a number here. Not randomly, it's the kind of like a predetermined like order to choose a number in this range. Use this range number port number to connect to server, and you will provide this number to your server too. Okay, and of course you will be interesting. What's the range of this well-known port? Well-known ports, the range is 0 to 1023. So it's very simple. It's very easy to remember. 0 to 1023. So just 1K different port number for this well-known port number. So this is the difference between the ephemeral port number and well-known port number. So we usually use well-known port number for server, and we use ephemeral port number for cloud. This is the idea. And when you have this kind of phone number and plus your IP address, then you can build a connection in your socket, in your network, in this like a communication connection. So this is another example shows the connection. So you can see the connection here, server port, this is web server, so it shows the port number 80. And this is the ephemeral port number, so it's just some like a arbitrary like numbers, a really big number. And in this case, you make a connection, and this connection socket pair contains one IP address, one port number, second IP address, second port number. And of course, it follows some protocol. So we did not mention protocol here, but it's also has some protocol information inside the socket pair. Okay, so this is the idea how we use it. Okay, so in this case, actually, you will see when your client try to like connect to a machine by using the machine's IP address, it can connect to a machine. But which process deal with this connection based on the port number? If it's 80, it's go to the web server. If it's 7, it's go to another server called echo server. So the IP address is the same for this case because they connect the machine, the client try to connect to the same machine. But which process will deal with the connection depends on the port number. This is the idea of the socket communication, socket connection. This is for today's video. Today we talk about what's a socket, what's the port number, and how to make a client server like a connection through the client server model. So remember client server model, they follow TCP/IP. They use like safe, much safe transport like a protocol, use a connection-oriented communication way to make a connection. For this connection, both machines need to know each other's like IP address, also the port number. So when you provide the IP address and port number, then you will find the good process, the correct process to deal with your connection. So for the socket, it includes 2 IP address, 2 port number, and it's used to make this connection. And for the port number, there's a different kind of port number. A well-known port number is used by server because server need to provide a service, and it's really hard to like tell everyone what's the port number for this service. So usually we just have rules. For example, web server, we usually just use 80. So if you want to provide your web service, then use the port number 80 to like do this web service. And for the client, because no one care like what's the client's port number, because when client make a connection, the client will tell the server what's the port number. So in this case, you can use another kind of the port number is called ephemeral port number. You just some like a random like big numbers you can use to connect to your server. So okay, so this is for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And next time we'll talk about how to write a program to like build a socket on your client and server. These kind of models. Okay, so see you next time. Port number is important.